Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see, what if, Naruto x Thalia Grace, part 1. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. How I let Bianca talk me into coming to this, I'll never know. Thought a 14-year-old boy, as he leaned against a wall, while trying to block out the chattering of the other students, and the music playing. The boy had dark black hair that spiked in all directions, dark blue eyes, lightly tanned skin, and 3 unique whisker-like marks on each cheek. He was wearing white boots, black pants tucked into his boots, a brown fur belt, a black shirt, a black leather jacket, a gold and green earring in his left ear, and a silver ring on his right index finger. This was Naruto Uzumaki, a student at Westover Hall Military Academy. At the moment, Naruto was attending a dance being held in the gymnasium, though not by choice. His friend Bianca D'Angelo, who was 13 years old, had made him come with her, and her brother Naiko, who was 10 years old, something Naruto had initially refused, since he hated large crowds. He had met the D'Angelo siblings, not long after he had been enrolled in Westover, with them becoming great friends during their time together. Which was surprising, given Naruto wasn't used to having friends, preferring to be on his own, or due to the fact that he doesn't stay in school long enough to make friends, before being expelled. It's not his fault that he seems to attract assholes that can back up their talk. But meeting Bianca and Neko had been really nice, with Neko being a curious kid, always asking questions. Along with being obsessed with pirates and might the magic, the latter of which Neko tried teaching Naruto to play, keywords being tried. I swear, I'd have an easier time solving a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. Naruto thought, since half of the rules of the game went completely over his head, and the other half just didn't make sense. Though Naruto did help Neko collect the figurines for the game, even managing to track down the rare Hades figure that Neko had wanted. As for his friendship with Bianca, Naruto would be lying if he said he didn't feel a little closer to her than with Neko. She was just a genuinely nice person who loved her little brother and protected him. But Naruto knew Bianca also didn't like having to always take care of Naiko and wanted a chance to live her own life. That's not to say she didn't love Naiko, she did, but she'd just like a break from having to be a parent. Bianca was also rather quiet and shy, usually hiding her face under a floppy green hat, something Naruto didn't really like, and believed Bianca shouldn't hide herself like that. Naruto paused in his musing, before stretching out his senses to see where Bianca and Neko were, finding them by the bleachers. Looking, he saw the siblings, with Bianca scolding Neko for something. Naruto was able to sense them, thanks to some special abilities he had started developing, about 7 years ago, with him having gotten more control over them, 4 years ago. And that was thanks to his mentor. He guessed the best description would be, or perhaps benefactor. One of his abilities was being able to sense energy, or Kai, as his mentor called it. He has memorized Bianca and Neko's signatures, making it easy to find them. He was just thankful that he also learned about the true nature of the world from his mentor, otherwise he would have been concerned as to why their energy felt cold and dark. Though there were times where Naruto would also sense people or beings that also have strange signatures. Like the new student, Grover Underwood, who felt similar to the natural energy found in the ground, trees, and animals. While the vice principal, Dr. Thorne, his energy felt sickly, like poison. Naruto frowned when he sensed 3 new signatures enter the gymnasium with Underwood, with all 3 of them having a strange feel to them. One of them felt like lightning and wind, the second felt like the sea, and the third one, Naruto couldn't really place what it felt like. Well, this can only go well. Naruto thought, since from the way the first 2 signatures felt, along with Bianca and Neko's own, that things were about to hectic. He watched as the 3 newcomers tried blending in after Thorne showed up, which Naruto felt was kind of pointless, if he already knew what they were and why they were here. Keeping an eye on the 4, Naruto watched and waited to see if they do anything, but so far, they've just continued trying to act natural. But after a few moments, Naruto stiffened and mentally cursed when he couldn't sense Bianca, Neko, or Thorne in the gymnasium anymore, along with that kid, whose signature felt like the sea. Spreading his senses out further, Naruto looked for where they were, only to sense they were now outside. Quickly, Naruto exited the school and made his way to where they were, while making sure to keep his distance, in case Thorne could sense him, or if he had allies nearby. And while Naruto was confident that he could take on Thorne and anyone he had helping him, he wasn't going to risk Bianca and Neko getting hurt because he charged in recklessly. Running through the forest, Naruto soon arrived at a clearing and a cliffside, where he saw Thorne standing with Bianca, Neko, and the other kid. Narrowing his eyes when he saw a spotlight approaching from a distance, likely a planar helicopter. Unfortunately, Naruto didn't have time to contemplate just what exactly was going on when he saw an invisible force knock down Bianca, Neko, and the other kid. While Underwood and one of the girls burst out from the trees, with the girl wielding a spear and a shield. Cursing their actions, Naruto ran through the trees, while his right hand became covered in a field of purple Kai. Seeing Thorne suddenly transform into a manticore, Naruto increased his speed, and once he was close enough, he brought his Kai-covered hand down on the base of Thorne's scorpion tail. "I am my tail." Thorne roared in pain as his severed tail fell into the snow, while Naruto flipped over Thorne, landing in front of his friends and the 4 strangers. Naruto, Bianca said, shocked at his sudden appearance and his hand being covered in that strange energy, which didn't help with everything else that's happening. Oh man, that was so cool, said Neko, momentarily forgetting about the danger they were in favor of being amazed and excited at what Naruto just did. Hey Bianca, Neko, are you guys alright? Naruto asked. Why yeah, we're fine. Completely and utterly freaked out, definitely, said Bianca, before Andromeda stepped in front of them, pointing her sword at Naruto, believing he was an enemy. Who are you? Demanded Andromeda, wary of who this guy was and his strange abilities. Raising a brow at his question, Naruto pushed the sword away with a finger, not in the mood to be questioned by this kid. I'm the guy who just saved your asses, after rushing blindly into a situation you knew nothing about, said Naruto, directing the latter part at Grover, Annabeth, and Thalia, who winced at the accusation, knowing it was true. Besides, you should still be more concerned about Thorne and helicopters currently pointing missiles at us, Naruto said, turning back to Thorne, who growled and glared at him in hatred for cutting his tail off. Uzumaki, I knew I should have killed you before, Thorne snarled, having sensed something off about Naruto, but knew he wasn't a demigod, so he left him alone, not believing he was a threat and not to blow his cover. A decision he was now regretting. Please, if you tried attacking me, you'd simply have died sooner. Now then, tell me what you were planning to do with Neko and Bianca, or else start cutting other parts off, said Naruto, smirking darkly, as he held up his god split cut, while Thorne scoffed at his threat, believing the brat simply got lucky before. You forget I'm the one with the helicopter, armed with missiles, retorted Thorne smugly, believing he had the advantage in terms of power. What helicopter? Naruto said, still smirking. What are you, stupid boy? That crack. Everyone looked in shock as Naruto swung his hand, unleashing an energy blade that sliced through the ground and traveled straight towards the helicopter, cutting it straight down the middle. They watched as both halves slowly slid apart before it immediately exploded, with the wreckage falling into the ocean below. All I see is scrap metal, stated Naruto, smirking wickedly at Thorne's shock and now growing fear. That is, Thalia muttered, amazed at what she just saw. Now then, about those answers I wanted, said Naruto, approaching Thorne, who unconsciously stepped back, but quickly growled and buried the fear at what he just witnessed. I don't need those pathetic mortals to kill you, boy, Thorne roared, leaping at Naruto to tear him apart, the teen not looking concerned in the slightest. Then you can die, as well, Naruto stated, before aiming his palm at Thorne, and created a golden energy ball with a black core. Before Thorne could even think of dodging, Naruto fired the black power ball at him, as a large beam, which consumed the manticore, erasing him entirely. With both the nuisances taken care of, Naruto turned back to his friends and the 4 strangers, with the demigods, and sat or tensed in case they had to fight this guy. Though they didn't make a move to attack, feeling like they'd be completely and utterly outmatched, especially after seeing what Naruto just did. Can someone please just explain what is going on? Bianca shouted, as the stress and madness of everything happening around her became too much, and right now, she just wanted a straight answer of what's happening. Before anyone could say anything, Naruto tensed before grunting when a silver arrow was suddenly shot through his shoulder. Bianca gave a short scream at seeing her friend get shot, with Neko gasping in shock, while the others looked to where the arrow came from, only to see a dozen young girls, the youngest being around 10, and the oldest being 14, all of them wearing silver ski parkas and jeans armed with bows. They also glared at Naruto for some strange reason, at least Andromeda, while Thalia, Annabeth, and Grover knew who the girls were. The Hunters, Annabeth said, shocked and worried about what they just did. Oh great, muttered Thalia, now annoyed at her least favorite group's appearance. Even worse was the fact they likely just made an enemy out of an unknown force with strange and powerful abilities. Okay, now I'm pissed, Naruto stated, breaking off the arrowhead and pulling the arrow out of his shoulder, while the hunters all aimed more arrows at him. That will be a silent boy, spat one of the girls, who looked like a Persian princess, and wearing a silver circlet, glaring at Naruto, as if his mere existence offended her. So, the boy is merely ignorant, as to be expected from a mortal, said another girl, possibly either 12 or 13, before Naruto scoffed. Well, the boy is standing right here. And no, I'm not ignorant. I know who you are, Artemis, goddess of the moon, and your merry band of Girl Scouts. I'd say it's an honor, but I'd be lying, that, and the fact you just shot me, Naruto said, with Andromeda, Thalia, Annabeth, and Grover being surprised that he knew who they were, while Bianca and Neko were only more confused. The hunters, however, glared harder at Naruto for saying their patron's name, while Artemis narrowed her eyes at his knowledge. Not to mention those strange abilities he seemed to possess. If you know who I am, then you'll know it's in your best interest to do what I say, Artemis said, knowing her father would want this stranger brought to Camp HalfBlood to be watched, rather than be allowed to roam freely. Is that right? Naruto asked, smirking, while Artemis gave him a warning look. Yes or else, retorted Artemis, Naruto's smirk widening, before he looked at the arrow previously in his shoulder. Here's my response to that, Naruto said, before suddenly vanishing in a burst of speed, shocking everyone. But their shock only growing when Naruto reappeared in front of Artemis, and buried his fist in her stomach, making the goddess double over in pain, and in shock, before she went flying back towards the trees. Lady Artemis. Zo cried out in worry for her patron, before glaring murderously at Naruto. Without hesitation all the hunters began firing arrows at Naruto, who was now prepared for the attacks, and managed to catch every arrow they shot at him. Naruto then threw the arrows right back at them, cutting their bowstrings. With their bows damaged, the hunters pulled out their hunting knives, and charged Naruto together. Though they had the advantage in numbers, and had enhanced physical abilities granted to them by Artemis, along with their training, Naruto had them outclassed in every category. Ducking, and dodging the stabs, and slashes, Naruto waited for his chance to strike back. Once he saw it, he grabbed one of the hunters by the arm, and brought his elbow down on her shoulder, dislocating it, before grabbing her by her collar, and throwing her back towards the forest. Ducking under two more hunters' knives, Naruto maneuvered behind them, and smashed their heads together, taking them out. Naruto then turned around, and blocked Zo's knives with his finger, with the hunter glaring at him heatedly for attacking her sisters. Only to gasp in pain, when Naruto lifted his leg, and slammed his foot into her stomach, sending her flying into a tree. Sensing danger, Naruto activated his god split cut, and blocked Artemis's own hunting knives, with the goddess glaring vengefully at him. "You'll pay for attacking my hunters, boy." Artemis growled, while Naruto smirked at her tauntingly. "Attacking is such a strong word. I prefer defending myself." Naruto replied, which only seemed to anger Artemis further. "Defending yourself, you attack me first, and they retaliate," retorted Artemis, while trying to force Naruto back with her knives, only for him to not even budge. "No, you shot an arrow at me first, unprovoked I might add, and I attacked you in kind. I only attacked your hunters, after they shot more arrows at me, and if you noticed, they attacked to kill me, whereas I only incapacitated them," stated Naruto. "You broke Phoebe's arm," Artemis shouted. "Would you prefer I break her neck?" Naruto replied, now starting to look bored, increasing Artemis's anger that she's using all her strength, and yet he's not showing even a hint of being strained. She had even transformed into her adult form, but it still did nothing. Besides, if you should blame anyone, blame yourself. You're the one who recruited those girls, who are barely teenagers, into a group where they go off hunting dangerous monsters on a daily basis. If anything, you should be grateful that I only fought to knock them out. I'm sure there are plenty more things out there that'd prefer brutally killing them, what you watched," Naruto added, furthering Artemis's anger even more at the fact he was right about her hunters facing dangerous monsters every day. The only reason they remain safe is because of her presence, but there's always the chance of them dying on their own when she's not around to protect them, or if she herself sends them out on hunts. "Also, this is getting boring, so I'm ending this farce," said Naruto, turning serious for a moment, before to Artemis's shock, Naruto forced his hand down, slicing straight through her knives. Using her shock, Naruto swept Artemis's feet out from under her before placing his hand at her throat. "Now you know who I am, and it'd be in your best interest to leave," Naruto said, using Artemis's own words against her. Though Naruto then heard the sound of an arrow cutting through the air. Tilting his head, Naruto allowed the arrow to fly past him, only for his eyes to widen, when he saw the arrow was flying straight towards Bianca and Neko. "Damn it." Naruto cursed mentally, speeding in front of the siblings, grunting in pain, as the arrow stabbed into his left side. "Naruto, are you alright?" Bianca asked, freaking out over seeing him be shot again, this time protecting her and Neko. Before Naruto could respond though, he noticed the arrow started glowing, making his eyes widen before quickly jumping away. Just in time, as the arrow suddenly exploded, while still stabbed inside of him. The aftermath caused Bianca to scream in horror, Thalia's eyes to widen in shock, while Andromeda, Annabeth, and Grover turned green in horror, with Annabeth thankfully covering Neko's eyes to prevent him from seeing it. With it being Naruto now having a giant hole in his side, with blood splattered around him. "Shit," Naruto muttered, falling to one knee while clutching his side, with Bianca rushing to his side, shaking when she saw how much blood there was. "Okay, if we hurry, we can get you to a hospital or something," Bianca said, panicking, and swallowing the bile in her throat, when she got a glimpse inside the hole, and could actually see Naruto's organs. "It's fine, Bianca," said Naruto, feeling lightheaded from the blood he lost. Fine, you have a hole in your body, that's not fine," shouted Bianca. "Yeah, and it's already starting to heal," Naruto stated, moving his hand, and to the girl's shock, she actually could see the wound slowly repairing itself. "How?" Bianca asked, not sure she could be shocked by anything else at this point. "I'll explain later," muttered Naruto, before finally falling on ground, with Bianca fearful that he was dying, only to relax slightly, when she saw he was still breathing normally, or, as normal, as one can with a large hole in them. Slowly Thalia, Andromeda, and Grover approached Bianca, with Annabeth still covering Neko's eyes, not wanting to freak the girl out any more than she already was. "Hey Bianca. We can help you get him somewhere safe, alright?" Thalia said, kneeling beside the girl, who looked at them warily. "That will not go anywhere, until that boy is dead." Zo spat, aiming an arrow at Naruto, with Thalia glaring at her. Seriously, Nightshade, you don't think you've done enough damage, Thalia said, not believing the hunter was still, with Zoe glaring at her in distaste. Of course thou would side with another destructive male, Thalia Grace, said Zoe, with Thalia growling, as lightning crackled in her eyes. At least I wasn't stupid enough to attack someone who clearly could have killed us all. Even your precious mistress couldn't do anything. And it's nighttime to boot. Thalia retorted, knowing none of them had a chance against someone that not even an Olympian could so much as push back, even during a time when she's at her strongest. Enough. Zoe, help the others collect the wounded and bring them back to camp, Artemis said, raising a hand and stopping Zoe's protests, before her lieutenant nodded stiffly and went to help her sisters. The goddess then looked at the demigods, who regarded her warily. If you all would accompany us back to our camp, I can explain everything to you, Bianca D'Angelo, of what is going on. You may bring the boy, and I swear he will not be harmed, Artemis said, not wanting to bring Naruto to her hunter's camp, but she realized she's already ruined first impressions, and didn't want things to deteriorate even further. Bianca was about to retort, but Thalia put a hand on her shoulder, and nodded at her, along with Andromeda and Annabeth, showing they'd help her if the hunters did attack. So, with reluctance, Bianca nodded before picking Naruto up with Thalia's help, with the demigod grunting at how heavy he was. With that, Artemis guided them back to where her hunters set up camp. Mindscape, Naruto groaned as he opened his eyes, finding himself in a log cabin. He wasn't worried about his sudden change in location, since he knew it was just his mindscape, and his body was still where he was. Getting up, Naruto went outside to a balcony with a table and a view of a beautiful forest. Though Naruto didn't look at the view, instead looking at the being sitting at the table. It was a green-skinned man with pure white hair that spiked up, with a long protruding bang on the right side, gray eyes, with gold and green earrings in both ears, a ring on his right index finger like Naruto's own, and wearing black robes with red edging, and white boots. Naruto wordlessly sat next across from the man, who was drinking tea as well, while raising a brow at the phone on the table. Only to groan when it started ringing. Well, I sure hope somebody picks up that phone, said the being in a dual-layered voice. I fucking hate you, Naruto muttered, grabbing the phone and answering it, only to pull it back when the being's voice practically screamed at him. Because I fucking called it. Growling, Naruto grabbed the phone and threw it off into the distance, while being smirked smugly at him. Yeah, I get it. You were right, the gods would attack me, and now that they know I exist, they'll either try to control me or kill me. Don't look so smug, Zamasu, said Naruto to his mentor teacher. Yes, this being's name was Zamasu, specifically fused Zamasu, the fusion between the original Zamasu and Goku Black, another version of Zamasu from a different timeline. Created after taking over the body of the Saiyan, Son Goku. You see now, the gods of this world are petty, arrogant, and cruel creatures that do not serve their divinity, and must now face judgment, Zamasu said, now turning serious. For those that knew Zamasu, they'd be surprised, even shocked, to hear him speak of gods like that. Given how Zamasu saw the gods as perfect and beautiful beings. That was true for the gods of his universe, but these gods are anything but. This change in perspective started back in Zamasu's original universe after Black and the original Zamasu fused together to face those Saiyans, Goku, Vegeta, and Trunks. The fight had been going in his favor, until he realized that by fusing the immortal Zamasu and immortal Black, his body was no longer balanced, as now he could die, since he wasn't completely immortal anymore. It led to his body mutating, as his regeneration worked to keep him together. However, that became the least of Zamasu's worries when his enemies once again tried sealing him away, this time succeeding in trapping him, only for something else to once again go wrong, as due to all the time traveling in the area, along with the rift that Goku Black created prior, with the Sickle of Sorrow, a rift in time and space had opened up, sucking in the container he had been sealed in, with it being spat out in what was once an empty universe. Thankfully, the container had been broken, freeing Zamasu with his body having been completely destroyed, but his immortal essence remained, leading to his essence spreading out, and creating an entirely new universe. At first Zamasu was pleased by this, as now he could make an entire universe in his image, one that was perfect and beautiful, and free of those cursed mortals. That is until Zamasu realized he didn't just create a new universe, he created new gods, as well. Again this pleased Zamasu, to have created new deities, only to his horror, they behaved nothing like true gods, but like mortals. Arrogance, cruelty, pettiness, and a desire for violence, everything he hated about mortals was within these deities born from his own power. It only became worse with the titans, and then even worse with the gods, themselves. With only a select few actually being worthy of being called gods. And the worst part was that they all came from him. It was a bitter pill for Zamasu to swallow, that these arrogant creatures that were worse than even the cruelest of mortals, came from him, or chaos, the primordial of the void, as they've all come to see him as. None of them actually know about Zamasu, himself. And, as time passed, with each cruel and horrific action done by the gods, Zamasu became more cynical, believing that his utopia was impossible to achieve. But he also observed the mortals themselves, and saw that, not all of them cruel heartless abominations, as he originally believed. They were capable of kindness and desiring peace. It was at this realization, Zamasu created a new plan, like the Zero Mortal plan. Only rather than exterminating all mortals, he would eliminate all those who were evil, cruel, and twisted, while leaving those that truly deserved to live in his utopia. Unfortunately, as he was simply a shapeless, formless void now, Zamasu needed to find a champion to execute his will, to bring true justice into his universe. And he found the perfect one, in Naruto. Though at first, Naruto didn't really care about helping Zamasu achieve his plan, not really caring what the gods did. This didn't deter Zamasu though, instead he still trained Naruto, and simply waited for him to realize the truth for himself. That he would never get to live in peace, if and when the gods discovered his existence. Was it an underhanded tactic, perhaps? But Zamasu also knew that sometimes, someone needed to experience something firsthand to understand the situation. And now Naruto has, with his encounter with Artemis. So, what do we do now? Naruto asked. Given how you aren't dead yet, it's likely Artemis will force you to go to Camp HalfBlood, something that will aid us immensely. It will give you a chance to gather recruits among the Olympians' own children. Once you show them the true nature of their parents, they will join us in creating a better world. Zamasu explained, as while Naruto himself was already powerful, and would only grow stronger, it never hurts to have allies in a fight. And what about the other gods? What should I do if they try attacking me? Naruto asked, knowing that there are other pantheons, besides the Greek one. I believe that answer is obvious. Replied Zamasu with a malicious smirk, which Naruto matched with a smirk of his own. Just making sure I had to go ahead. Naruto said, now fully on board Zamasu's plan of inflicting divine justice on the mortals and gods. With that, Naruto crossed his arms, and waited for his body to finish healing itself. So, you saying that the Greek gods are real, that monsters are real, the underworld, Olympus, all of that is real. And not only that, but me and Neko are also demigods, born from a mortal and a god. Bianca said, looking between Andromeda, Annabeth, Thalia, and Grover with wide eyes of disbelief, while Neko was being uncharacteristically quiet. Currently, the group had returned to Artemis's camp, while keeping their distance from the hunters, given how bad their first impressions were of the group. Or in Thalia's case, already having a low opinion of them, with their attack on Naruto making it drop even further. They had also brought Naruto, and made sure none of the hunters could try anything, or get a clear shot at him, as he recovered. Bianca and Neko were just thankful that the hole in his side was almost fully closed. Afterwards, the three demigods, and the sole satyr of the group, had filled the siblings in on the new world they just entered, from the gods to monsters to demigods, everything. Yeah, that pretty much covers it. We also don't know who your godly parent is, which is a good thing, since if you knew, then your demigod scent would be much stronger, and attract more monsters, like Thorne. Annabeth said, with Bianca feeling lightheaded, as she processed all this information. I think I'm gonna be sick. Bianca muttered, wanting nothing more than to empty her stomach. Normally, she would deny everything she just heard, calling these people crazy, and grabbing her brother to get as far away from them as possible. But given what she saw Naruto do, that power he had, along with the fact he had a giant hole in his chest less than 10 minutes ago, and was still alive, not to mention healing at the moment. So, Bianca was willing to believe a lot of things, right now. This, however, brought up an entirely new set of problems. The most concerning being, she and her brother were connected to possibly the most psychotic and evil beings in the world. Given Eko's obsession for might and magic, Bianca figured it'd be a good excuse to learn more about Greek history and myths. And safe to say, Bianca was horrified at everything she read, and the atrocities the gods had committed. Through her digging, she had managed to uncover some of the tales that the gods hid, to make themselves look good. Murder, rape, turning people into monsters, destroying entire cities, even slaughtering entire families, just for the slightest of insults, or perceived insults. While there were a few genuinely good or decent gods, the most notable being Hestia and, surprisingly, Hades. The latter surprised Bianca, when she found out that he was actually a reasonable god, rather than being evil, like in most media. Though she had to guess that the negative light that Hades has been depicted in, was due to the rise of Christianity, and how the underworld became associated with hell and the devil. However, despite this, the bad ones far outweighed the good ones. It honestly made Bianca consider taking away Neko's Might and Magic collection, and destroying it, not wanting her brother to look up to monsters, like the gods. But she also didn't want to destroy his view of his favorite game, so she held her tongue, and smiled, as Neko played his game, while making sure he never found out how horrible the beings it was based on, really were. Now, she's learned that not only were they real, but one of her, and her brother's parents was a god. Oh god, please don't tell me, Bianca thought, turning green, as her mind took a darker turn, as she's read enough stories to know what happens to women who attract the god's interest, for one reason or another. Bianca mentally begged that she and Neko hadn't been the byproduct of a god draping their mother. Meanwhile, Neko had stayed silent throughout the explanation. Normally he'd be excited to learn that he and Bianca were the children of a god, even better, one from his favorite game. But given how their friend was attacked and nearly killed by Artemis and her hunters, he wasn't as excited as he'd normally be. Just then, the group's attention turned as they saw Zo approaching them, making the demigods tense and ready for a fight if it came to that. Thankfully, Zo didn't make a move for her bow or hunting knives, but did send Naruto a scathing glare before addressing the demigods. Lady Artemis requests the presence of Bianca D'Angelo, Andromeda Jackson, and Thalia Grace. Zo said, while glaring at Thalia when she said her name, which Thalia happily returned. "It's your presence, Nightshade," stated Thalia, having always been annoyed with Zo's archaic way of speaking. Before looking at Bianca, he didn't seem too eager to speak with the mood goddess. "It's alright, Annabeth, and Grover will make sure your friend is safe. And we'll be there with you," Andromeda assured, putting a hand on Bianca's shoulder, with Thalia nodding in agreement, while the girl nodded hesitantly. With that, the three demigods were led by Zo towards Artemis's tent, leaving Annabeth and Grover with Naruto and Neko. "Grover, why don't you keep Neko company? I'll watch Naruto," said Annabeth, with a satyr nodding, before approaching the boy and asking him about his game, making Neko perk up, as his mood soon brightened, before he happily started explaining mythomagic to the satyr. Seeing they were now occupied, Annabeth smiled at that, doing the trick and cheering Neko up, before glancing at Naruto, while having to fight down a blush, as she admired his looks. Given that she was now more focused on him, and not his powers, Annabeth had to admit that he was rather handsome. While she was an experienced demigod, Annabeth was still a teenage girl with hormones, and she could appreciate a good-looking guy, like Naruto. Though her attention was inevitably drawn to his whisker marks. Are those real? Annabeth wondered, as she looked at them, wondering if they were real, or just tattoos. Curiosity getting the better of her, Annabeth slowly reached over to touch Naruto's whiskers, only to quickly retract her hand when she saw he was coming. Groaning, Naruto rolled his head around, cracking his neck. Sitting up, the first thing Naruto saw was Annabeth staring at him. "Take a picture, it'll last longer," Naruto said, before moving his jacket and shirt to see the hole in him was now fully healed. Sorry. I didn't mean to stare, but given what we all saw you do, can you blame me?" Annabeth said, quickly. "I guess not, since I doubt it's every day you meet someone with powers like mine, or be able to take out a goddess, as easily, as I did. By the way, we were properly introduced, I'm Naruto Uzumaki," Naruto said, while holding out his hand. "Annabeth Chase," Annabeth replied, grabbing Naruto's hand, only to be surprised when he kissed it. "Pleasure to meet you, Annabeth," said Naruto, while smiling at her. Since they were no longer in immediate danger, Naruto took the time to look Annabeth over. She was the same age as Bianca, or perhaps even his age, with long curly honey blonde hair, put in a ponytail, tan skin, a slender and athletic body, and captivating storm gray eyes that shined with curiosity and intelligence. Her attire consisted of black boots, navy blue jeans, an orange camp HalfBlood shirt, and a gray jacket over it. She also had a necklace, with several clay beads, and a college ring on it. All in all, Naruto would say Annabeth was just as beautiful as Bianca. Right. Annabeth stuttered with a light blush, not used to such gestures. "So, you're a demigod?" Naruto asked, curious to know whose child Annabeth was, since he couldn't figure it out from her energy, as it didn't have a unique feel to it, like Bianca's and Neko's. "Yeah, a daughter of Athena." "What about you, are you a demigod?" asked Annabeth, wanting to know if Naruto was another demigod. But if he was, then who was his godly parent to grant him such powers? It was also possible that he could be the child of a titan, or maybe even a primordial, to have such powers, and the strength to subdue Artemis, an Olympian. Especially at night when she was at her strongest. "Nope, not a demigod. I'm immortal," Naruto answered, smirking at Annabeth's confused look. "Mortal? That could mean a lot of things. So, what are you?" asked Annabeth, knowing he definitely wasn't an ordinary human. "Beautiful and smart, asking me what I am. And that is a question that comes with a very long story," said Naruto, with Annabeth blushing again at being called beautiful. "And? Are you going to tell me?" Annabeth asked, eager to learn more about him and what he could do. "Perhaps I'll tell you someday. But that day isn't today," Naruto replied, with Annabeth pouting at not getting to learn more about him. "Okay, what about your powers?" "I know it was energy manipulation, but I'm not sure what kind, exactly," said Annabeth, knowing some demigods could manipulate types of energy, depending on who their godly parent is, usually children of Hecate, who were able to use magic. Annabeth gasped in amazement when Naruto created a black power ball in his hand, with the demigod looking at it in fascination. Though still keeping her distance, remembering what the attack did to Thorne. "It's not energy, at least like you know it. It's called Kai. It's also called latent energy or fighting power, which directly translates to life force. Kai is a tangible energy within all living things, and with the right training, it can be drawn out and used for a variety of attacks and techniques, like my black power ball and God's split cut, along with my other attacks. It can also be used to enhance one's strength, speed, endurance, and even achieve flight. A person's Kai can also be increased with more training to surpass their physical limits, but it also requires Kai control, as the more Kai a person has, the harder it is to control," Naruto explained, with Annabeth listening intently, amazed at what one could do with Kai. "You said Kai is in all living things. Does that mean I'd be able to use Kai? Annabeth asked, excitedly at the thought of having such abilities. With the right training, yes, answered Naruto. Would you be able to teach me? Asked Annabeth, hoping he'd teach her, as it'd be much easier if she had someone who could already use Kai, teach her how to draw out her own. I'll think about it, Naruto replied, seeing this as a good chance to get closer to Annabeth and her friends, and a better chance of turning them against the Olympians. Before they could say anything else, they both felt a sudden spike of power coming straight from Artemis's tent, with Naruto immediately taking off running when he sensed Bianca was inside. Earlier Artemis's tent. Once the three demigods had arrived at Artemis's tent, the goddess had Andromeda, Thalia, and Bianca sit down across from her, while Zoe sat down next to her mistress. Afterwards, Andromeda and Thalia remained silent and just listened as Artemis began telling Bianca about the supernatural world, with the explanation basically being the same as their own, with a few additions here and there. During the explanation, Andromeda and Bianca did take the time to really look at Artemis, who was still in her adult form. She had long silver-white hair, held up by an icy blue headband with white swirling designs, while a few strands that framed her face, moonlight pale skin, eyes that were a mix of pale blue, silver, and periwinkle, with narrow pupils. Her attire consisted of pale blue fur boots, bandages wrapped around her lower right leg, and her left thigh, a dangerously short white kimono, with cloud-like designs along the edges, and held closed by a pale blue obi, a beaded necklace with a large blue stone on the end, bandages wrapped around her arms, pale blue fur gloves, and finally a white fur animal pelt draped across her shoulders. Now then, I wish to make you both an offer, Bianca D'Angelo and Andromeda Jackson, Artemis said, with Thalia scoffing, as she knew exactly what the offer was, and was glad that she wasn't included. Her answer hasn't changed from the first time, and now it's definitely not going to change, after the stunt the hunters had just pulled. What offer? Bianca asked, doubting she'll accept it, but was at least trying to be cordial. The chance to join my hunters, to hunt by side for eternity, to remain maidens forever, and reject love for, as long as you live, Artemis said. It is a great honor, devoting oneself to Lady Artemis, living with your new sisters, and swearing off males. Thou would be granted eternal youth, to live forever, and hunt, added Zoe, wanting to convince them to join the hunt. No, I'm fine at camp, Andromeda answered, refusing the offer, given not only would that mean she'd have to watch as her friends and loved ones died while she still lived, but after what just happened, she didn't feel too eager to join a group of trigger-happy hunters. That camp is filled with nothing but fools and children. Zoe scoffed, disappointed that Andromeda couldn't see that joining the hunt was the better choice. Says the one that attacked an unknown person and then got beaten into the ground, Andromeda retorted, with Thalia smirking at her cousin's comeback, while Zoe growled in anger at the reminder of their humiliating defeat by that male. We thought the boy was an enemy, and reacted accordingly. The only mistake was not aiming to kill, Zoe said, seeing Naruto's attack against them, as proof that he was an enemy. Yeah, cause that worked out so well afterwards, with that magic arrow. If anything, that may just make him attack you, with the intent to kill, this time, stated Thalia. Since Naruto was currently healing from having a fucking hole in his side, she doubted that regular arrows would do anything. He'd probably be more pissed off than hurt. It is clear thou have not learned your lesson in trusting a destructive male, Thalia Grace. And it is disappointing that you are rejecting Lady Artemis's generosity of Andromeda Jackson, choosing to stay at that camp, Zoe retorted, with both girls glaring at her for the insults. At least at camp, we don't randomly attack people, believing they're enemies. And I doubt Bianca would want to join either, since it was her friend you shot and tried to kill. The best place for her and her brother is Camp HalfBlood, retorted Andromeda. Thou should not speak for others. Shut up, Bianca screamed suddenly, surprising everyone in the tent. While unknown to them, the surrounding shadows flared up for a moment before returning to normal. Why should I accept either of those choices? I just met you guys, and while I'm thankful for your help in trying to save me and Echo, I don't really know you, Bianca said to Thalia and Andromeda before turning to Artemis and Zoe. And I definitely wouldn't join you, either. Not after how you attacked Naruto, and then almost blew him up, nearly killing him, with him only surviving thanks to his own powers. Not to mention, that if he hadn't jumped in the way, that arrow would have killed me, and my brother, Bianca shouted, knowing if Naruto hadn't gotten in the way, she and Neko would have died, instead. Maybe in another life, Bianca might have joined the hunters, liking the idea of being free to live her own life, and not having to take care of Neko all the time, anymore. But not in this life, not after what happened, along with the legends she's read about Artemis. That didn't exactly make her out to be some benevolent patron, turning Callisto into a bear after she was raped by Zeus, who also took Artemis's own form. Unleashing the Caledonian boar on the city of Caledon after the king forgot to honor Artemis, which was an honest mistake, and then sabotaging their efforts to appease her. How she and her brother Apollo killed the sons and daughters of Queen Niobe of Thebes, while leaving the youngest daughter alive, and turning the queen to stone, after she insulted their mother, Leto. Though the last one, Bianca could understand, since anyone would be angry at someone for insulting their mother, but Artemis and Apollo took it too far in killing her children. Then they even left the youngest daughter alive, as an act of mercy, after basically killing her entire family. Yeah, really merciful. If anything, Bianca saw Artemis as just another murderer, killing anyone that displeases her in any way, even if it wasn't their fault. Not even her own hunters were safe, if Callisto was anything to go by. Look, thanks for telling me all this, but I'm not going anywhere, besides back to my brother, and Naruto. And after he's fully healed, we're all leaving, said Bianca, believing that Naruto would be able to protect her and Neko from any monsters or anything else. Given he was capable of taking down a goddess, she's sure they'll be fine. I'm afraid that isn't possible. Due to the powers he possesses, along with the strength to challenge and best an Olympian, he would need to be brought to Camp HalfBlood to be watched and monitored, Artemis said, knowing someone like Naruto couldn't allow to wander freely, not with the powers he has at his disposal. This only served to anger Bianca further, as she clenched her fists tightly. Seeing Bianca angry, Andromeda also couldn't help but get a strange sense of deja vu. Are you kidding me? Not only did you attack him and nearly him, but now you want to basically make him a prisoner, just because of something he might do, demanded Bianca, not believing they were actually going to make Naruto a prisoner, just for defending himself, her, and Neko. With the power he possesses, the boy must be watched to make sure he doesn't become a threat, Zoe stated, with Bianca scoffing at her words. A threat? Are you saying that because of his power, or because he's a boy? I bet if Naruto was a girl, you'd want him in here as well, to join your little hunt. You probably wouldn't have attacked him either if it was a girl defending us. Go ahead, tell me I'm wrong, said Bianca, her words making Artemis and Zoe wince at the double standard being thrown in their faces, especially since it was true. If Naruto was a girl, Artemis would instantly have tried getting her to join the Hunters, as an invaluable member. Honestly, even now, she considered turning him into a girl, under the belief of it being a punishment. Seeing that neither of them had a response, Bianca scoffed, knowing she was right. Figures. Is it really a surprise that you were all phased out by Christianity? Bianca said. Unfortunately for Bianca, despite how long it's been, that was still a sore subject for all the Olympians. With Artemis's previously building shame vanishing, replaced with an ice-cold rage, as she glared at Bianca, with her eyes glowing silver. You should learn to be careful with whom you speak to, Bianca D'Angelo, Artemis said slowly, as her divine power gathered around her, refusing to let anyone insult her in such a way, and live. However, before Artemis could smite Bianca, Naruto suddenly appeared in front of her with his hand wrapped firmly around her neck, making the goddess gasp, as her power returned to normal. Apparently, the lesson hasn't sunk in yet. Let me give you a reminder, little goddess, Naruto growled, with his eyes flashing a light gray color. Before anyone could react, Naruto threw Artemis out of the tent and into the snow. Artemis cried out when Naruto stomped his foot on her back, with it being temporarily broken. Looking, Artemis for once felt afraid, as she saw Naruto glaring down at her, with his god split cut around his hand, while a black and purple aura surrounded him. His power, it's even stronger than before, Artemis thought, now afraid to see that she hadn't even seen Naruto's true power in their previous fight. Though what Artemis didn't know was that she was feeling only a fraction of Naruto's true might. After all, he didn't want the gods to learn just how strong he really was. Surprise. It's another ability of mine. Every time I'm close to death and come back from it, my power grows. So that arrow you hit me with, it only made me stronger, Naruto said, smirking viciously, as Artemis's eyes widened at hearing this, as it meant that with his regeneration, he could potentially become invincible. Naruto mentally smirks at her expression, as this way, he'd be able to show more of his power, with each life-threatening injury he receives, and the gods will just believe it's his ability making him stronger. Which isn't untrue, as the best lies are the ones that have a layer of truth to them. And if he's lucky, those Zenkai boosts may end up being the push that he'll need to later unlock Super Saiyan God, and maybe even Super Saiyan Rose. Now then, from what I saw, you were about to try and kill Bianca, someone I care about very much. That either makes you very brave or very stupid, since you've seen I can already crush you. Perhaps I need to break you, instead. Naruto growled, angry that this arrogant brat dared to try and hurt Bianca. Now he'll show her what happens when someone really pisses him off. Sisters, ready thy magic arrows, Zoe shouted, running out of the tent with an explosive arrow, with the rest of the hunters doing the same, and aimed the arrows at Naruto, since if one could incapacitate him, a few dozen should be enough to kill him. Naruto glanced at the hunters, before looking at Artemis with a dark smirk, the goddess's eyes widening in fear. No, don't, Artemis shouted, hoping to stop her hunters from making a mistake that would cost them. Fire, Zoe shouted, as she and all the hunters fired their arrows at Naruto. Unfortunately for them, Naruto was ready this time, as he held out his hand, stopping all the arrows in midair with his telekinesis, shocking everyone. Only for the hunters and Artemis to be horrified when Naruto shot the arrows right back at them, at a double speed. This resulted in the arrows punching straight through their bodies, thankfully in non-lethal areas, but still inflicting plenty of pain. These were the lucky hunters. The unlucky ones were the hunters that had arrows impaled in them, which exploded, not a moment later. No? Artemis screamed in horror at seeing her adoptive daughters be killed and injured, with it getting even worse when the rest of the arrows exploded, sending shrapnel everywhere, resulting in even more hunters being either killed or injured by the explosions and shrapnel. Naruto looked around at the resulting destruction and death before looking at Artemis, with the goddess looking grief-stricken as tears fell from her eyes. "What have you done?" Artemis said, horrified at seeing more than half of her daughters being dead, with the rest being critically injured, as their pain-filled cries cut into her heart. "What have I done? No, this isn't on me, this is on you for threatening Bianca. This is what happens when someone tries hurting the people I care about. This is the consequence because you decided to be slightly happy. Though is it really a surprise that once again, you precious hunters paid the price for your arrogance, goddess? But I suppose you aren't really a goddess, you're just a pathetic brat." Naruto mocked, before grabbing Artemis and tossing her over to her hunters, the ones that weren't dead, anyway. Coming out of the tent, Bianca, Andromeda, and Thalia winced and looked sadly at the destruction and death. But while it was sad, they knew that Artemis and the hunters only had themselves to blame, with how they tried to kill Bianca and Naruto, again, in terms of the latter. "We'll be going now, Moon Brat, but don't worry, I'll still go to Camp Half-Blood. But not because you think you can make me, it's so I don't have to worry about any Olympians being on my tail," Naruto said, before walking away, with the 3 demigods following after him, to rejoin Annabeth, Grover, and Neko. "I apologize that you 3 had to see that, but when it comes to protecting my loved ones, I get less merciful to those that threaten them," said Naruto, while looking at Bianca, who looked away with a faint blush, before glancing at Thalia and Andromeda, while taking in their appearances. Thalia looked to be a bit older than him, perhaps 15. Having spiky black hair that reached down to her neck, with 2 bangs on each side of her face, a blue highlighted bang, and a blue thunder hairpin that he swore glowed. All of which made her blue eyes stand out, like a couple of lightning-filled sapphires, on her pale, but beautiful face. As for her clothing, she wore a short-sleeved black shirt, with blue lightning on the front, a sleeveless fishnet shirt, while having a black leather jacket worn over them, that also had blue lightning on it, along with having both a white interior, and borders. All of which was short enough to expose her midriff. On her arms, she wore a pair of fishnet arm sleeves, that started her mid-upper arms, and stopped just short of her black fingerless, which has steel knuckle gloves, along with blue lightning on them, as well. On her lower body, she wore dark gray jeans, with a belt that had a blue lightning lock, blue socks, and black steel-toed hunting boots. Andromeda was around his age, with long black hair at the top, that changed to violet tips at the bottom, with large green eyes akin to emeralds that shine through her pale skin, wearing a dark blue long-sleeve jacket over a gray hoodie, a violet t-shirt underneath, a blue skirt that hid her black sports shorts, and lastly violet socks, worn under a pair of blue and white running shoes. "Well, at least I know that the gods are capable of creating true beauty," Naruto thought, seeing as Andromeda, Thalia, Bianca, and Annabeth were stunningly beautiful girls, and knew they'd only grow more so with time. "It's fine, well it's sad they died, they brought it upon themselves," Thalia replied, knowing he was simply defending his friend and himself. If she could do what he did, she'd do the same if she were in his position. "Yeah, they can only blame themselves," added Andromeda, as like Thalia, she would have done the same, if she could, if she was in Naruto's position. "Indeed. By the way, I'm Naruto Uzumaki," said Naruto, holding out his hands. "Thalia Grace," Thalia introduced, while shaking his hand. "Andromeda Jackson, Annie for short," said Andromeda, as she did the same. Both girls were then surprised when he kissed their hands, like he did with Annabeth, and smirked at them. "A pleasure to meet you, Thalia." "And you, kid," Naruto said. Thalia quickly took her hand back, and stuffed it in her pockets, while Andromeda felt annoyed at being called a kid. "My name is Andromeda, not a kid," said Andromeda, while holding her head up high. Only to gulp when Naruto walked up to her, making her back away until her back hit a tree. Andromeda looked up at Naruto, and stared at her intensely, making the girl blush under his gaze. "So then, should I call you Brat, like with the so-called moon goddess?" Naruto asked, while smirking. "Kai kid it is then," said Andromeda, before quickly slipping past Naruto to rejoin Thalia and Bianca. "He's staring at your butt," Thalia said with a small smirk. This made Andromeda walk faster with her face burning red. All while Thalia snickered at her embarrassment, while Bianca gained a strange smile. "Don't Bianca, I think you and Thalia have nice asses, as well," Naruto said, making the 2 demigods blush, before quickly walking away. Next day, Naruto stood with the demigods, the Soul Satyr, along Artemis, and her hunters, the latter group being in a somber mood, after they had been forced to bury and mourn their dead sisters. Most of them were also wrapped in bandages from their injuries. Currently, they are all waiting for Artemis's brother, Apollo god of the sun, to arrive and take them to Camp Half-Blood. Normally Artemis and her hunters would have left by now, but most of them needed proper medical attention, which they could get at Camp Half-Blood. While Artemis was going to keep an eye on Naruto, at least until a meeting was held. Finally, the sun began to rise, accompanied by a bright burst of light on the horizon, and an intense heat. Cover your eyes, unless you want to be blinded. Naruto said, with the demigods and hunters looking away. The light and heat became more intense, with each passing moment, with the demigods feeling like they were melting from the heat. Then, without warning, the light suddenly vanished, allowing them to look again. The first thing they saw was a red convertible Maserati spider, with the metal glowing from the intense heat. They also saw the snow had melted in a complete circle around the car. Out from the car stepped Apollo, with golden blonde hair, a bright smile, and dressed in casual clothing. "Lil sis," Apollo said, smiling widely at his sister, only to frown when she didn't react like she usually did. In fact, she didn't even seem to react to his presence. The reason became clear when Apollo saw Naruto, making the sun god glare at him, having heard of what he did to his sister and her hunters. However, before Apollo could teach this mortal a lesson, Artemis stopped him. "Apollo, don't. I know what you're thinking, and you can't fight him. He's already overpowered me at night, so he'll do the same to you, even though it's daytime. Please just take us to camp," Artemis said, looking at her brother with pleading eyes, knowing if he tried attacking Naruto, then it was likely he wouldn't survive. She already had to watch most of her hunters die, she couldn't watch her brother die, as well. Seeing his sister's look, Apollo sighed in reluctance, before nodding. "Yeah, let's just go," Apollo muttered, pulling out his keys, and turning his sports car into a shuttle bus. With that, everyone piled into the bus, with the hunters and Artemis quickly sitting in the far back, wanting to put as much distance between them and Naruto. Both from their anger at him killing their sisters, and fear that his rage would be directed at them again. "So, Naruto, Annabeth told us that the power you have is called Kai, right? She also said that with the right training, anyone could use it, is that true?" Thalia asked, after Apollo started driving, both eager to learn if she could use Kai, and wanting to distract herself from the fact she's currently miles up in the air. Naruto gave Annabeth a dry look, with the girl chuckling sheepishly, before sighing, as he created his god split cut. "Yes, my power is called Kai, and yes, with the right training, anyone could use it," Naruto said, much to their amazement that they might be able to use Kai. "That is so cool. Oh, what else can you do? What about energy blasts? Could you form weapons with Kai?" Neko asked, excitedly. "Easy, Neko. You can do lots of things with Kai. Yes, I can perform several energy blasts, and while I can't show you at the moment, I can extend this into a sword," said Naruto, knowing to use that variation, he'd have to transform, and doing that right now would result in everyone dying. "And you'd be able to teach us how to use it?" Andromeda asked, interested in the idea of using Kai, as it'd definitely help her, with how terrible her luck is. "Yes, I can teach those of you that are interested, how to use Kai. But be warned, the training will be brutal, and I won't hold back," said Naruto, while smirking wickedly, unnerving them a little, but none of them backed down, since the prospect of using Kai was too tempting. Finally, it wasn't long until the bus arrived at Camp HalfBlood, with Apollo landing just outside the big house, where Chiron and Mr. D were waiting for them. "Sup Chiron, bro?" Apollo greeted his former student and brother. "Lord Apollo, Lady Artemis, it's an honor to have you here," Chiron said, while smiling at the twin archers. "Is it the boy?" Mr. D asked, glancing at Naruto, both of them having been informed of the unknown, could be brought to camp. "Yes, that's him. Dionysus, I know you don't like heroes or the campers, but please, for all of our sakes, do not anger him," Artemis warned quietly, knowing Mr. D wasn't one to hold back from insulting people, but they couldn't risk angering Naruto any more than she already has. Mr. D nodded slowly, seeing how serious the situation was, if Artemis herself was telling him not to anger a boy, of all people. Just then, they heard a gasp, and quickly looked, only for them to be shocked when they saw a symbol floating above Bianca's and Neko's heads. The symbol being a black and gold helmet, the symbol of Hades. Shaking off his shock, Chiron raised his arms, while the campers all bowed nervously at there being two children of the Lord of the Underworld at camp. "It has been decided. God of the dead, and riches, Lord of the Underworld. Hail Bianca D'Angelo, daughter of Hades. Hail Neko D'Angelo, son of Hades," Chiron declared, with Bianca and Neko looking up in shock to learn who their father was. "Our father is Hades," Bianca muttered, while feeling relieved at this knowledge, since from all the stories she's read, Hades was one of the few gods that never raped a woman, and, in fact, hardly ever cheated on his wife, Persephone. So, it's a relief that he's their father, rather than one of the crueler gods. And isn't that ironic, being relieved her father was Lord of the Underworld? Just then, everyone felt the ground shaking, before down by the cabins, as the ground split open between cabins 1 and 3, with a new cabin rising up out of the ground, accompanied by the wailings of souls, as a jet black stone cabin appeared. The 13th cabin, the Hades cabin. However, the shock didn't end there, as not a moment later, a bright glowing white infinity symbol appeared over Naruto's head. This made Chiron, Mr. D, Artemis, and Apollo pale at realizing what this meant, while the campers looked confused, not knowing the symbol. "Young man, what is your name?" Chiron asked, unable to hide the tremble in his voice. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, champion of the primordial of the void, chaos," said Naruto loudly, shocking everyone to hear that the first primordial had taken a champion, with a few campers also freaking out. This was something Naruto and Zamasu had decided while he was unconscious. As well, such a move would make the Olympians more wary of him. It'd also mean they'd be less likely to try something as well. Unless they wanted to incur the wrath of the first primordial. Sis, D. Apollo said, sensing they were being called to a council meeting. Artemis and Mr. G nodded before the three gods vanished to Olympus. Well, I suppose you two should get situated in your new cabin, said Naruto, while planning to make his own home in Camp Half-Blood, as he had no desire to stay in any of the Olympian cabins. Olympus. Meanwhile, in the Olympus council chambers, the 12 Olympians had all arrived, with even Hades being present. With Hestia tending to the hearth, as usual. Hades, explain yourself, why have you broken the oath? Demanded Zeus, glaring at his brother, a glare Hades matched. You forget, brother, both Neko and Bianca were born before that oath was made, remember? You tried striking them down with lightning, and if not for my intervention, they would have died with their mother. Retorted Hades, glaring at his younger brother darkly, still angered at Maria's death. Brother, I believe the more pressing matter is the reveal of this champion of chaos. Poseidon interrupted, before a fight could break out. Zeus grunted, before sitting back in his throne, knowing Poseidon was right. The reveal of chaos having a champion was far more concerning. Artemis, you encountered this boy, tell us what happened. Zeus commanded, looking at his daughter, with Artemis nodding, before telling the council her and her Hunter's encounter with Naruto. From witnessing him destroy a helicopter and killing a manticore, to how he easily defeated her and her hunters, along with the deaths of some of her hunters, omitting the reason, since she doubted her uncle would take kindly to her almost smiting his daughter. After she finished, Artemis looked at Hades before getting up and bowing to the god of the dead. Uncle, I humbly request that the hunters that died by the hands of the champion of chaos be revived. Please, they did not deserve to die in such a way, and I wish for them to have a second chance. Artemis said, not wanting her hunters to pay for her mistake, since it was her almost attacking Bianca that led to their deaths. No? Hades said coldly, as he looked down at Artemis, while the shadows rose around him. In fact, you should be grateful that Chaos's champion was there. If not for him, my children would have died twice from your actions, with you even attempting to smite my daughter. Hades hissed, glaring furiously at Artemis, who played under his anger. If either Neko or Bianca had died because of her actions, whether direct or indirect, Hades wouldn't have rested until every single one of her hunters was dead, and sent screaming to the deepest pit in Tartarus. Uncle, please, I said no. They're dead through your actions alone, and dead they will stay. You and those girls made your beds, now lie in them, said Hades. Enough. Artemis, Hades is correct, your hunters have paid the price for their actions, and now so will you. Zeus said, with Artemis looking at him, both shocked and hurt by this. Father, haven't I paid enough both through my humiliation and the loss of my hunters? Artemis said, only to wilt when his father glared at her, something he's hardly, if ever, done to one of his daughters. No, because it is through you that the champion of chaos could become any enemy of Olympus, along with chaos itself. So, from this moment on, you will remain at Camp Half-Blood with your hunters to watch Chaos's champion. Zeus declared, much to Artemis's shock and horror at being forced to remain in close proximity to Naruto. Be lucky that I'm not ordering you to become his vassal, in hopes to appease both him and Chaos. Zeus said, with Artemis wincing at this. Ah yes, father. Artemis said, hanging her head in defeat. Well, it did hurt him to see Artemis like this, given how she and Athena were his favorites among his daughters. Zeus was well aware that now was the time to discipline her, as both a king and a father. Not even a moment later, Apollo fell out of his throne, screaming in agony, while clutching his head in pain. This had the rest of the gods look at him in shock, worry, and fear at his sudden pain. Hey, Apollo, brother. Hermes said, kneeling beside him to see what was wrong, only for Apollo to suddenly stop screaming, and open his eyes showing shock, worry, fear, panic, and disbelief. Brother, what happened? Artemis asked, worried and fearful at the look in his eyes. The prophecy, the great prophecy, it's gone. Apollo shouted in disbelief. Hearing this, it didn't take long before the entire council fell into pandemonium. Asgard. Meanwhile, the Norse faction was in a similar situation, when suddenly, the prophecy of Ragnarok had vanished from all their texts. Even Odin, with his magic eye, could no longer see Ragnarok occurring. While this was happening, Loki silently seethed that his destiny, and chance to shine, had been taken from him. The trickster god mentally swore to find out who took away his destiny, and make them pay. Meanwhile, Freya watched all this happening with bored half-lidded eyes, and a small smirk on her face. How interesting. I do hope to meet the one who's caused such chaos. Freya thought. Heaven. Up in heaven, the archangels looked at Michael, wondering why he had summoned all of them. Brother, what has happened? Gabriel asked, seeing her brother's expression, and knew something bad had happened. The prophecy of the end, the apocalypse, it's gone. Not changed, like when Father and the Satans perished, it's simply gone. Michael revealed in disbelief, with the archangels being shocked to hear this. Hindu faction. Finally, the Hindu faction was also in an uproar of disbelief, as the prophecy of Brahman's next last judgment and reset of the universe was no longer going to happen. In fact, it would never happen ever again. The higher-ups were currently meeting to discuss how this happened and what could have caused this. All across the various factions and pantheons, all prophecies involving great change of the end of the world have all suddenly vanished, with no one understanding how it happened. None of them realizing that all these prophecies have been brought to an end by the will of the one true God. Zamasu. Thanks for watching my video. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.